So today we're going to talk about the history book project um, and give everybody an update on where it stands and what we still need and where we're going forward. So to start with, this picture that's on the cover here is a picture from Manchester Grange. It was the picnic they held at the fairgrounds in Manchester, and it's from around 1900. They were a pretty good crowd in the picture. So what is the Connecticut State Grange History Book Project? The History Book Project is a 5-year project which began in 2020 and will be released for the 140th anniversary of the Connecticut State Grange in 2025. We view this book as the history of the Connecticut State Grange and the Granges in Connecticut as told through the eyes of our members. Personal stories, memories, and recollections are so important to make this book interesting, in addition to the factual and statistical content. And the picture on this page is from Bristol Grange. Determination, perseverance, and hope. Seeds of perseverance, dedication, of purpose, of accomplishment have resulted in nearly 140 years of fruitful harvests that are the story of the Connecticut State Grange and all the Granges therein. So that's a quote from State Master Leonard Healy he was State Master from 1908 to 1911. That was in one of his master's addresses. So I thought that was appropriate. So thanks to the many entries we had in our book naming contest back in 2022-2023, we have a name. It's called Perseverance. Connecticut Granges Make Their Mark on History. There were 47 total entries submitted in the book naming contest. The Connecticut State Grange Executive Board narrowed the list down to their top 5 choices, which were then open for general voting for a period of 3 months. After the 3 months of voting, there was a tie. Each of the 2 titles in the tie received 21 votes. There were 87 votes tallied in total submitted for the 5 titles. The Connecticut State Grange Executive Board broke the tie, and the name of the book was decided. According to the rules of the naming contest, the winner will be acknowledged as such in the book. We will be honoring the winner at the 2025 Connecticut State Grange session by presenting them with 1 book, and then the Connecticut State Grange will provide 1 additional book to be donated to the library or historical association or museum of the winner's choice. Well, the person who submitted the name for the book naming contest has decided that they wish to remain anonymous and that they would like their copy of the book to be presented to the Connecticut State Library and the second book to be donated to the Connecticut State Historical Society. So I have to figure out how I'm going to handle that in the book. That's stating that they want to be anonymous. I haven't written that yet. So what have we completed? This picture is from East Haddam Grange. It was a play they were putting on in 1915. So these are a few of the items that have been completed for the history book. Charter applications. Todd has scanned in all of the original charter applications for all of the Granges, Pomona, the subordinates, and the juniors. These are where it all began for each Grange, and they're an important part of our history. So I thank him very much for taking the time to do that for us. Statistical data. Terry has been working with Janet Haller on the arduous task of completing the statistical data for the book, and it's been crazy. This includes complete lists of all officers and committees and other lists such as state session locations and speakers, scholarship winners, fair queens, all the Connecticut Youth Grange data, award winners, and more. So thank you, Janet, very, very, very much. I could not have done this without you. And we would also like to thank everyone who has helped us research for these important lists. So bios of Grange members. We now have over 300 finished biographies of various lengths on Connecticut Grange officers and members. Our goal is to have bios of each Connecticut State Grange president and have at least 1 bio from every Grange. And now we are close to achieving this goal. We would like to thank Kay Ruff for undertaking a huge amount of time and effort in researching and writing many of these bios. We would also like to thank Todd, Lynn Erickson, Joanne Cipriano, Roy and Betty Jane Harrington, and the many, many, many other Grange members, family of Grangers, local historians, and more who have helped greatly in this department. These bios are the core of this book and help us to see the Grange in Connecticut through the eyes of our members. So current photos of Grange locations. Our goal was to have a new current photo of each of the locations of every Grange meeting place. We would like to show a comparison to the old photos that we have and how these Grange halls and meetings places have changed. Roy and Betty Jane Harrington took on this nearly impossible task, including researching many of the original locations, and have now completed this project. Not only does this add a level of interest to the book, it saves us from the cost of using other photos that may have copyright and trademark rights applied to them. So many thanks to Roy and BJ. Historical research. This is the heart of the book project. We have had contributions from current and past members near, far, and wide to help us achieve our goals. Thank you to Roy and BJ, who have helped coordinate much of the research and the bios, and to Janet Haller, Kay Ruff, Lynn Erickson, Joanne Cipriano, Alma Graham, Carol Nath, Suzanne Schmidt, Bob Charbonneau, Barbara Prindle, Margaret Zatola, Cora Much, Nancy Strong, Nancy Weismeller, Noel Miller, and the many, many others who have lent a hand tracking down old photographs, newspaper clippings, memorabilia, and more. So what do we still need? So this picture is a view from the Coventry Grange Fair, September 1915. So there are a few biographies that we would like to include in the book that we still need. So they are Alan Saber Goodson from Wolcott and Bethlehem Grange, Beulah Node, who I've been trying to find. I actually found a phone number for her, but when I called it, I just got an answering machine and left a message and nobody ever called back. She is still alive. She's got to be like close to 100 years old. But I do not know what state she's in or exactly where she is. Carrie Meyer from Hope Grange, Dwight Lyman from Columbia, Edward Fuller from Tolland, Jean and Alice Speck from North Stonington, Harry Garrigus from Mansfield, Homer Wanzer from Lanesville, Lebbeus Chapman from Westbrook, Lou and Pearl Godin from Wolcott, Richard and Seal Jones from Victory, Charles and Sarah Curtis from Plainville, Zalman Peck from Hawleyville, Potatuck, Martha and Fred Richards from Victory, Doc Casperett from Harmony, James and Beverly O'Gara from Rock Rimmon, Walter and Mary Krawiak from Wigville, Sarah Perry from Eureka, Mary Leah Benson from Putatuck, Ethel Bartholomew from Eureka, Fred and Marion Plum from Litchfield. If you are a current State Grange officer or committee member and have not done so already, we ask that you please write and submit a biography of yourself for the book. And if you had agreed to write a bio and have not done so yet for any other members, please do so ASAP to avoid not having it published. We will be contacting each person directly who have important bios that are still outstanding, such as we have a couple people who've agreed to write on past masters who have not done it yet. We would hate to have a book without these Grange members included. If you have any questions, just send me an email or give me a call. But I would like to have all of the bios and copies submitted before July 1st, 2024, if possible.
Yeah. Hey, Terry.
Yep.
The one person from Columbia Grange. Has anybody talked with Ted Beebe? He used to be master there.
Yeah, not that I know of. I can shoot him a note. Let me write myself a note here. Okay. So profiles of Granges. There are a number of Granges that we are seeking historical data and a written account for. If you or know anybody who has any information you can pass on, such as written histories from anniversaries, news clippings, old photos, memories of these Granges, please let us know. So the list of these Granges that we need some information on are Lanesville from New Milford, Hawleyville from Newtown, Heartland, Colebrook, Berlin, Burritt Grange from New Britain, Ponomac from Waterford, Mattabesset from Middletown, Newington, Poquonock from Windsor, West Hartford, Saybrook, Crystal Lake from Eastford, Killingworth, Cromwell, Natchog from Chaplin, Shetucket from Scotland, Indian River from Milford, Andover, Clinton, Totoket from North Branford, Percival from Kensington, Hebron, Morris, Goodwill from Glastonbury, Goshen, Rippewam from Stamford, Chester, Aspetuck Valley from New Milford, Basra, Salem, Mystic, Pomperaug, Pocono, Pomperaug's from Southbury, Pocono from Brookfield, Pettipog from Essex, and Spoonville from East Granby. Now, junior Granges. There's a big hole that we currently have. Junior Granges had a history of opening and closing, and in many cases, they did that a number of times. So their histories have been difficult to compile because they're kind of all over the map. So we're just looking for a couple of paragraphs and maybe a photo on as many junior Granges as we can gather. We do have the full list of them in all of their years, but we're just trying to have something for each of the juniors if we can. So the search is on for a few other items: photos of rose drill teams, information and photos documenting traveling programs, such as the traveling gavel, the traveling basket, Pomona banner raids, etc. Nancy,
I have that, Terry.
what's that?
I came across the thing on the banner thing.
Oh, awesome. Thank you. Nancy Weismuller has given us the complete information on the Traveling Dolls program. She had everything on it, including the dolls still. So she has generously scanned all that in for me, which is great. We're also looking for information and photos on dairy dinners, on youth coronation balls, on Centennial Weekend from 1967. I know Janet's been finding some stuff on that. Anything from any of the Grange anniversaries: the 25th anniversary in 1910, the 50th in 1935, the 75th in 1960, the 100th in 1985. The National Grange Contest winners who are from Connecticut, and Janet's been filling in some of those holes for us. And also photos and scans of Grange memorabilia, ribbons, newspaper clippings, those old little program books, anything like that. That's really important. And it's a great replica of something that the Grange had during their history. So if you have some old ribbons hanging around, take some pictures of memorabilia, pictures of newspaper clippings, that would be great. We're also looking for pictures, histories, and information on all Granges, subordinates, pomonas, and juniors, information on Grange halls and particularly their dedications, and also whether or not a hall burned down and whether it was rebuilt. There's been a number of Grange halls in Connecticut that burned. We'll get into some more of that in a little bit. And then were rebuilt or their meeting location changed. Janet and I and Dawn have been, with a little help from Carol Knapp, have been trying to compile a list of CSYG officers. We're getting there. We still have some holes. Just the masters, lecturers, and secretaries, also prince and princesses and young couple winners, and then again the dates of the coronation balls. We're also looking for information and photos from lecturers' conferences, information on community service projects, and awards received. So now on to some fun facts. The picture here is from the 75th anniversary of the Connecticut State Grange in 1960. Pictured is Marion Beecher and Betty Beecher, and I have no idea who the other two people are. So the 75th anniversary of the Grange, actually the Hartford Courant ran a whole half-page plus on it. And I have a picture of that here, of the page from the Hartford Courant. They really went out of their way and covered all different aspects for the Grange. And in the picture here is Betty Jane Gardner, Ellsworth Covell, and Marion Beecher. So one of the articles from that great spread that the Hartford Courant did was on Governor Ribicoff and his proclamation for the 75th anniversary. He proclaimed that the week of August 1st to 7th, 1960 was to be Grange Week in Connecticut to honor the Connecticut State Grange's Diamond Jubilee. And this is the clipping on that. And his proclamation said, drawing its members from rural, suburban, and urban areas, the Grange serves to bring about a blending of agriculture, its primary interest, with business and industry, and to promote mutual understanding which benefits all. The year 1960 is a most significant one for Connecticut Granges since it's the 75th anniversary of the establishment of the Connecticut State Grange. In recognition of this Diamond Jubilee, the period from August 1st to 7th is designated as Grange Week in Connecticut. It is fitting that we pause to honor the Grange, which has done such outstanding work, not only in the interest of agriculture, but in a great many areas of civic improvement. As just one example, the Grange's efforts on behalf of highway safety are outstanding. Connecticut gladly salutes its state Grange on the occasion of its 75th anniversary. So there are a lot of different offshoots that came about from the Connecticut State Grange, and the patrons group Patrons Mutual Fire Insurance is one of them. Delegates to the 1885 state session authorized the State Grange Executive Committee to, quote, investigate the subject of Grange fire insurance and report at the annual meeting. Then, at the December 1886 session, the following report was made by the Good of the Order Committee. Quote, we would recommend the incorporation of a Patrons Mutual Fire and Life Insurance Company. The resolution was adopted and the insurance company was organized on April 6, 1887 at the United States Hotel in Hartford under the name Patrons Mutual Fire Insurance Company of Connecticut, which then evolved eventually into the Patrons Group. A version of this company remains in existence today under the name Patrons Mutual Fire Insurance Company and is in many states nationwide, though they are no longer headquartered in Connecticut or related to the Connecticut State Grange. The Connecticut State Grange no longer manages this company. So gallon clubbers. In 1945, State Master Harry Page urged Grange members to respond to the appeal of the American Red Cross to give a pint of blood. The following year, there appeared in the National Grange Monthly a list of members who had gone beyond the request and had become, quote, gallon clubbers. During 1949-50, Helen Provent, State Grange Home Economics Committee Chair, which is now the Family Activities Committee, under State Master Ira Wilcox, carried on the project of State Master Page and stressed the blood bank donations in cooperation with the Red Cross, making gallon clubbers a State Grange project. Granges took up the cause of promoting blood donations. Through the years, Granges, as well as individuals, have continued their work with blood drives. Get Connecticut out of the mud. In the spring of 1930, when the sun was high and the mud deep, many a Connecticut rural road was impossible to negotiate either by motor or horse-drawn vehicle. State Master Lewis Tolles requested a meeting at the House of Representatives in Hartford to address this issue. Unfortunately, the State Master didn't have the blessing of the State Executive Committee. Quote, because I kicked this thing off all by myself without conferring with my Executive Committee. When we did meet, their faces were long enough to eat oats out of a churn. However, when they saw the popularity of it all, they, being good sports, I guess, forgave me and pitched in and helped through to end like good soldiers. By this time, the newspapers had begun to spread the news of our doings, some favorable and some rather dubious, and others just hostile, unquote. Following the meeting at the Capitol, the Connecticut Rural Road Improvement Association Incorporated was formed with State Master Tolles as its president. As a result, the state legislature passed the Town Aid Bill, allocating $3 million to be allotted from the Highway Fund for division equally among the 169 Connecticut towns for improvement of roads. The allotment was increased over the years following the initial act of the legislature, with the fund being distributed to towns based on need rather than 169 equal portions. And these little medals, which there are a number still in existence today, were sold by the Connecticut State Grange as a fundraiser for this project. Good roads as a priority. Connecticut State Grange set a precedent in 1930 for their support of local roads with the Get Connecticut Out of the Mud project. In 1980, they were still advocating for better driving by supporting a movement to improve the Route 44 corridor by constructing a highway to the northwest corner from I-84. This was called the Missing Spoke Program. Note, as of this writing, no major thoroughfare has been constructed along the Route 44 corridor. And the clipping here is an article from the Winston Evening Citizen about the project. And this was the map that the State Grange came up with, showing the highways in Connecticut and the missing spokes that they were promoting. So Altapec and the polio vaccine. Alta Peck was the first lady to the state master Donald K. Peck from Litchfield Grange, but in addition to her work in Connecticut, she was also the national director of Home Economics Committee, which now is known either as CWA or Family Activities, from 1954 to 1974, when she unexpectedly passed away. Alta was a brilliant lady with many ideas, which brought changes to the department. One of her numerous achievements was leading the charge for distribution of the polio vaccine. Polio was spreading since its discovery in 1905, affecting hundreds of thousands of people, including President Franklin Roosevelt. The March of Dimes was established in 1938 with its mission to eradicate polio. In the late 1950s, the disease was ravaging the country. The Salk Institute, located in California, developed and tested a vaccine to eliminate the virus, but they needed funding. 3 shots per person were required, making it an expensive endeavor. Through her extensive work with the Granges in Connecticut and then nationwide, and through working with the March of Dimes, Alta took on the task of raising money to fund the production and distribution of the polio vaccine. Through her efforts, $400,000 was raised for this cause, with over $60,000 coming from Connecticut Granges. In 1964, Alta flew out to California to visit California polio patients and to visit the Salk Institute in San Diego, where a room was dedicated in her honor named the Grange Room, and that room is still dedicated to her today. Alta once said, quote, "There can only be an end to the polio story when victory over a virus has turned to victory over a disease." Sadly, she passed before she could see the outcome of her efforts. By 1994, polio was declared eliminated from the Americas, and by 2018, 99% elimination worldwide. Note, the Salk Institute is still active as a research foundation for biological studies, primarily in the areas of cancer, Alzheimer's, and AIDS research, as well as work with plant biology. The March of Dimes, which has backed the Institute since its inception, continues to contribute financially every year, and the Grange Room still exists today. Niagara Falls. In 1906, the Connecticut State Grange passed a resolution to ensure the preservation of Niagara Falls. As an aside, in 2003, National Grange held their 157th annual convention in Niagara Falls. And here is a clipping that describes the Grange and their resolution. The Bridge Parade in celebration of 1908. In 1908, Hartford celebrated the opening of the Bulkley Bridge, then called the Hartford Bridge, with a 3-day extravaganza described by the Hartford Courant as the grandest combined electrical display, historical pageants, military, civil, and industrial parades ever seen on this continent. The new stone arch structure was a replacement for the old wooden bridge that had burned in 1895, and it was an engineering marvel. 75,000 people reportedly participated in the various parades and pageants, which were viewed by thousands more each day, who filled the specially constructed 22,000-seat grandstands and bleachers, which provided good views of all the festivities. The celebration ran from Monday, October 6th to Wednesday, October 8th, 1908. The Connecticut State Grange under State Master J.H. Hale, along with 22 local Granges then in the Hartford area, played a major role in this celebration. And here's a couple of ephemera collectibles from the bridge. We have a postcard from the dedication, the cover of the official program, and a picture of the parade. It's one of the parades from 1908. Don't know if that's a Grange float or not. A committee was formed to plan the Connecticut State Grange's representation at this grand event. The 22 Granges, along with Central Pomona, were to supply the volunteer labor, and the State Grange would stand the expense. It was voted that 5 floats would be used in the parade, each representing Ceres, Pomona, Flora, colonial husbandry, and modern husbandry, respectively. West Hartford, Farmington, Bloomfield, Suffield, and Wigville Granges were in charge of the colonial husbandry float. Burritt, Southington, Plainville, Berlin, and Bristol Granges were in charge of the modern husbandry float. Glastonbury, Goodwill, Hillstown, and East Hartford Granges were in charge of the series float. Central Pomona, Wapping, East Windsor, Manchester, and Enfield Granges were in charge of the Pomona float, and Rocky Hill, Weathersfield, and Newington Granges were in charge of the Flora float. The Hartford Courant describes the Grange floats. Quote, "No end of favorable comment has been made of Grange floats. They were gotten up with much taste and lavish decoration and were a delight to the eye." And these are two really grainy pictures from the Hartford Courant of two of the Grange floats, one of the patrons of husbandry float and one of the Flora float. Mountain County Choristers. Mountain County Pomona Choristers Group was started in 1955 by Marion Beecher. Most years, the group would perform two variety shows, once in the spring and once in the fall. They celebrated their 25th concert at Winchester Grange Hall in 1972. Over their first 25 concerts, the choristers raised over $13,000 to benefit Camp Berger and the Connecticut Granger Trust Fund. The group also purchased a new set of sashes for Mountain County Pomona. Their 50th concert was held in 1980, where they celebrated their 25th anniversary. As time marched on, the Mountain County Choristers expanded into a statewide choral group, and the last formal choristers concert was held at Wallingford Grange Hall in 1998, and that's a picture from it there. On the bottom, the choristers did reconvene for a short performance on a couple of occasions thereafter. Community service efforts. Yeah.
Yeah, and three of us here were part of that.
I was, and I was in that picture.
So was I.
Yep. And I was, well, I don't know if I was for that one specific one, but I was part of the chorus at one point.
Yep. They were a fun time, those concerts.
Mm-hmm.
So community service efforts. Pictured is Coassa Grange donating dictionaries to local third graders from 2013. Connecticut Grange members have been known far and wide for their unselfish and practical community service work for nearly 140 years. Thousands of volunteers have put countless hours and immeasurable personal resources into this work and have done it with pleasure and a spirit of friendliness, dedication, and regard for others. Here's just a few of the more notable community service projects from Connecticut Granges. And on this page is a clipping about a dairy farmer who lost 35 cows to pneumonia, and the Connecticut State Grange and the New Haven County Farm Bureau supplied him with $26,000 to replenish his herd.
Mm-hmm.
So let's start with Wallingford Grange. Wallingford Grange developed the Marcus E. Cook Memorial Park, a 44-acre recreational tract. The land was donated by the Cook family. The Grange developed roads, fireplaces, benches, a pavilion, and other park facilities. The park was turned over to the town upon its completion in 1956 after a 10-year period. The park is still operating today. The project placed in the top 10 entries in the 1952 National Grange Community Service Contest, and Wallingford Grange was awarded a prize of $1,000. Hamden Grange. Hamden Grange provided leadership in the development of Brooksville Park, a project started in 1961, which included construction of a Grange pavilion in 1966, organized financial support for a $40,000 nature lodge, and established a zoo and a skating pond. Brooksville Park is still operational today. This project placed in the top 10 of the National Grange Community Service Contest in both 1962 and 1965, winning $1,000 each time for Hamden Grange. Cherrybrook Grange. In 1957, Cherrybrook Grange hosted a polio vaccine clinic with over 500 folks receiving their doses, and in the same year, built a building to house the North Canton Post Office. The building is still in use today. Cherrybrook Grange placed in the top 10 in the National Grange Community Service Contest for their efforts in 1957. So a few more efforts of Connecticut Grange Community Service. Farmington Grange led the charge to save the Mark Twain House in Hartford. North Stonington Grange developed the Little League ballpark from fields in 60 days. Taghannock Grange is home to the Ellsworth Volunteer Fire Department. Andover Grange built the town's Soldier Memorial Monument honoring the armed forces in World War II in Korea. It was unveiled and dedicated on December 7th, 1959. Bridgewater Grange presents a yearly scholarship of $500 to a local high school student. Many other Granges through the years have also awarded scholarships, including Plainville, Simsbury, and Marlborough. Wichita Grange built the Wichita Grange Pavilion alongside Fiddler's Pond at Warren Woods, Warren's scenic town park along Brick School Road. This structure is still in use today. Winchester Grange is home to the Winchester Center Volunteer Fire Department and also houses the local post office and now houses the Connecticut State Grange Central Office. Simsbury Grange succeeded in saving Meadowwood, the field where Martin Luther King worked when he was a youth in Simsbury. King also attended dances at Simsbury Grange. So let's take a look at some of Connecticut Grange Halls. Here we have pictured Wethersfield Grange Hall. The picture on the left is from 1913 and on the right from, I put 1923, it should be 2023. Typo there. So
It should be noted, Terry, it should be noted that the previous, just back up one.
Back up.
Yeah. That hall, Wethersfield Hall, had the steepest stairs that you had to climb to get to the main hall up from the dining room.
Okay. Something tells me they're no longer to code if they're that steep. Pictured here is a picture of Hillstown Grange with their officers. I'm thinking around 1930. I don't have the actual year on the picture. Historically, when Grange chapters were organized, the meetings were held in members' homes, but it didn't take long for the importance of a meeting location to be realized. Many Granges met in local meeting houses, churches, schools, and town halls, while they raised the funds to either build or purchase their own Grange Hall. As membership grew, Grange Halls often became important gathering places of their communities, providing a place for farmers to work together, thus creating a sense of camaraderie and giving the community a place to socialize. With the importance to the community comes the responsibilities Granges bear of owning and maintaining a building. As years passed, many Grange Halls fell into disrepair. Some were victims of tragedies such as fire and flooding. Others were given to the town or sold. Yet many thrived and became historical centerpieces and landmarks. Pictured here is Harmony Grange and Connecticut. Let's take a look at a few of Connecticut's Grange Halls through the years. Dedication of the first Grange Hall in Connecticut was Lebanon Grange Hall. It was built in 1884 for the cost of $1,725 and dedicated on November 12, 1885. A crowd of over 500 people attended the dedication by then National Deputy Sherman Kimberly. Pictured here is a picture of Lebanon Grange from somewhere around 1900, and then a picture of it today. The building which today serves as Coventry Grange Hall was built in 1834 by the Second Congregational Church of Coventry. Called the Academy Building, it was used as a chapel and a school until it was sold to Coventry Grange in 1889. Formed in 1888, Coventry Grange has used the building since 1890. It was dedicated in May of 1890, making it the oldest continually used Grange Hall in the state of Connecticut. On the left is the picture of the old hall, on the right, picture of it today. Econk Community Grange. Econk Community Grange originally met in the old Voluntown Church until they bought farmland in 1893 and met in the farmhouse, which is where the Grays now live, and then building their own hall on the property. Econk Grange Hall was dedicated in 1914 by State Master J.A. Sherwood. The hall burned on January 6, 1981, due to a poorly insulated furnace. Econk Grange met at the town hall in the interim, and the new Grange Hall was built on the site of the old hall and was ready for use in October 1981. On December 6, 1981, the date scheduled for the new hall dedication and Econk's 93rd anniversary, a blizzard hit, so the event was rescheduled and held on December 7th. Here we show a picture of the old hall, a picture of the new hall, and an article about the fire. Hope Grange. Hope Grange Hall was dedicated by State Master F.H.P. on October 12, 1937. The Grange Hall was destroyed by fire on February 27, 1991. It is believed that the fire may have been caused by electrical heating tape wrapped around a pipe to keep it from freezing. There was more than $70,000 worth of damage to the building. While it was believed that the building was salvageable, Hope Grange did not have the funds or the manpower to rebuild. So the damaged building sat on the location for years until the city deemed it unsafe and it was removed. Hope Grange met in the First Congregational Church next to the Grange Hall until they folded in 2009. Here we show a picture of the Grange Hall before the fire, a picture of the fire, and then a clipping about the fire. As an aside, shortly after the Grange Hall had burned, Todd and I got to go inside the burned hall and took some pictures, and I do have those. And it was quite something. I can't imagine that they called that salvageable with the amount of damage that was there. It was a little crazy. Rocky Hill Grange. Rocky Hill Grange purchased their first hall in 1901 from the United Methodist Church, located next to Belden's Store, Academy Hall, the old grain mill, and right in back of the Congregational Church on Main and Center Streets. The dedication was held that December, but come one day in 1921, right after lunchtime, everything changed. A petroleum fire started at Belden's Store due to the carelessness via cigarette of a Standard Oil delivery person who was delivering kerosene. The fire spread quickly due to early gas pumps and a large kerosene storage tank, and destroyed most of the center of town as there was no town water supply and no fire department. The church bell was the fire alarm. Locals managed to save the church using a bucket brigade, but there was not enough manpower to save the other buildings. After the Great Fire, Rocky Hill Grange rebuilt their hall, relocating it to Glastonbury Avenue, which then became the center of activities at that time. On the left is a picture of the burned structures from town, and on the right was Rocky Hall's new hall. I can't imagine a town without a fire department. That just seems unreal. But when you think of 1921, it shows the importance of things like that. Torringford Grange. Torringford Grange Hall was built in 1909 and dedicated on December 18, 1910. The hall was given to the city in 1970 as membership was waning and it was hard for Grangers to keep up the building. The Grange Hall was located next to the Torrington Congregational Church. But at 3:06 a.m. on April 24, 1975, disaster struck. A windswept fire started in the kitchen of the Grange Hall, and by 3:15 a.m., when the fire department arrived, it had already spread to the church. Firemen were hampered because there was no fire hydrants on Torringford Street in the vicinity of the two buildings, so they had to lay hose lines to a pond located on Ruette's farm next door. When the blaze was brought under control at 6 a.m., both buildings had burnt to the ground. Sadly, Torringford Grange surrendered their charter after the fire. But an interesting tidbit, in speaking with Esther Rebellard, age 97, who was Torringford Grange's secretary at the time of the fire, she told of how the Grange had a meeting earlier in the evening of the fire, and for some reason, when she packed up to go home, the Bible was accidentally picked up and went home with her. The Bible is the only surviving piece of regalia from Torringford Grange, and she still has it and sent me a picture of it. Esther now belongs to Winchester Grange. Other Grange Hall stories. Coassa Grange and Washington Grange both lost their Grange halls during the flood of 1955. Many Granges lost their halls to fire, more than just the ones we just highlighted, including Cheshire Grange, Granby Grange, Brooklyn Grange, Salem Grange, Winchester Grange, Easton Grange, Norfield Grange, Wigville Grange, Westbrook Grange, and more. North Haven Grange built a new Grange Hall in 1960, and we are not sure whatever happened to the original hall, whether it burned or we have documentation that they had a hall, and we had documentation that they built a hall, but we don't know what happened in between. So looking ahead, here's the schedule. Currently, we are in the process of design and layout for the book. This phase should be completed by October of 2024. Proofreading will begin in November 2024 and should be completed by January of 2025. Then changes and additional proofreading should be completed by April of 2025. The pre-sale of the book will begin in March of 2025 and should conclude by the end of July 2025. Final pre-press setup and printing will commence in August of 25, and the book will be unveiled and distributed at the Connecticut State Grange Annual Session of October 2025. So looking ahead, although we have made significant progress in many areas, we can still use a hand in seeing this massive project through to completion for our October 2025 release date. We are looking for volunteers to go to the Connecticut State Library for some specific research topics. One of them is to find the original copy. The Connecticut State Library has all original copies of the Hartford Courant. And we would like somebody to go there, and I can give them specific paper dates where they can pull out the paper and take pictures of things like the floats from the 1908 parade and things like that. I have a specific list of things that we need. We are looking for volunteers to help load information into Excel spreadsheets. Janet's been sending a huge amount of information, but we need that information put into some Excel spreadsheets to make it easier to manage to put into the book. We are looking for volunteers to help scan newspaper clippings and photos. I have a box full of newspaper clippings that have been sent to me and old photos, and I will gladly send that box to someone who would be willing to scan it.
I can do that.
You want to do that? Okay,
Yeah.
Bob, I will get that to you. Thank you very much for that. We're also looking for personal stories of members as well as Grange memories and recollections. We have one section in this book of various memories that people have sent us of stories and things of their Grange membership and how it's affected their families. We have people who are married in the Grange, people who are, fifth and sixth generation Grange members, those type of things. So if you have any members in your Granges who are longtime Grange members or even not longtime Grange members and have some stories and memories and recollections, we would gladly take those.
Terry, are you taking stories also?
Yes. Yep.
Because I've got one for Dave Seeley.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that would be great.
About him and the manure spreader.
I've heard that story. You want to tell it quickly?
Well, what happened was that when he was a teenager, he went out to get the tractor set up and to spread some manure in the field. And as he was just getting up, ready to go, he had everything ready to go with a load of manure. His mother came out to talk with him, to tell him about some other chores that needed to be done that day. Well, when she got, just to describe what she looked like, she was very matronly. She liked to wear dresses that had a low cut in the bodice area. And anyways, when Dave started up the tractor, he got the manure spreader going, and one big glop of manure went up in the air and came down right down dead center of her bodice. Obviously, Dave wasn't seen for the rest of the day as he was doing chores on the other side of the farm.
For those who don't know, Dave Seeley was a longtime Grange member from Beacon Grange. He was state gatekeeper at one point. I think he went up to assistant steward as well. Fun guy. He was known for traveling all over the state to Grange. If he had a free night, he would pick a Grange and go.
And that's one of the stories that he used to tell.
Yep. Fun guy.
So I'll send that to you.
Great, thank you. So if you have a flair for grammar and spelling, and if you can spot mistakes from a mile away, we need you. We are seeking detailed, oriented, and organized individuals to volunteer their time to proofread the history book. The more eyes we have on the copy, the better chance of catching format and layout inconsistencies, typos, and grammatical errors. If you're interested in lending hand proofreading, please send me a note or let me know or call me, and I will put you on the list, and we will send you a digital copy, a PDF format of the book when it's ready to be proofread, and you can have at it. The more eyes we have, the better off the book is going to be. So let's get excited about Connecticut Grange history. The history is our foundation, and this book spotlights the wonderful years of the Connecticut State Grange. So that's this part of the presentation. But now, while I still am sharing my screen, I'm going to show you a few of the pages that are done. So this is just a handful. Don't go by the page numbers because these are not in order. I just picked and choosed a few pages throughout. So you can get a feel of what the book will look like. This is the list of state masters. This is what a state master profile will look like. It will have a bar with the name, their term, their spouse, the Grange they were from, a byline, their bio, and some photos. This is Sherman Kimberly. He was the first state master of the second Grange. Again, photo, bio. And then with him, he had written a longhand letter during his time between the first and second state Granges. So we added that letter in. So that's a spotlight piece. So spotlight pieces in the book will be highlighted by a background color like is shown here. We also have the first past master's badge, which was presented to him. So we have that pictures of that badge, and Edith Scholl at one point had written a piece on it. So we have that here. John Howard Hale, or J.H. Hale, this is his bio. He was state master from 1886 to 1889 from Glastonbury Grange. Again, some photos. He was a well-known peach farmer, and peaches of his varieties are still in existence today. He was very influential in agriculture during his time. And he was also very enthusiastic at organizing Granges. So we have a list of all of the Granges that were organized under him, and it's like 50 of them.
Thanks.
So here's Don Peck's coming up a little newer. Here's his bio with some photos. This bio was written by his son, Don, who is now in his 90s. A really young picture of him, which is great. Some pictures of building the Alta Don Hall. So his bio is on the longer side, so it runs for multiple pages. Deputies who served under him, we have that list. And we discuss a little about the deputy clubs. His was called the Alta Don at that point. And then Betty Jane Gardner had written a piece remembering him. So that piece is here following his bio.
Nice.
This was the list of all the Pomona Granges and the Granges that served within them. Then the 3 current Pomona Granges and the Granges that are within each of their jurisdictions. And then here's what a Pomona bio looks like. This is Mountain County's. This profile of Mountain County Pomona was written by Marion Beecher for their 100th anniversary. So we have some pictures from that. We have the very relatively lengthy bio that she wrote. It's pretty specific. And a list of all of the past masters from 1888 up through for Mountain County. And then I had written an addendum to bring it from the 100th anniversary current to when it closed. And mentioning the Mountain County choristers, I had to add onto that addendum the words to the Happy Wanderer because those who were familiar with the Mountain County Choristers knew that every concert they sang the Happy Wanderer. So that just had to be there.
And we're going to be singing it in our head the rest of the night. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Way ahead of you.
So this is what a subordinate bio will look like. This is Winchester's. There will be a status of whether the Grange is active or dormant, their location, the pomona that they belong to, the date they were organized. If they were reorganized, that date will be there. If they have gone dormant, the date that they folded will be there as well. This bio of Winchester Grange was also written by Marion Beecher for their 100th anniversary in 1988. We have a picture of the first master of Winchester Grange. I'm trying to find pictures of the first masters of all of the Granges. That's been an arduous task. So we've got quite a few of them, but not everyone. There's just some other pictures to accompany the article. We again have the list of all the past masters of Winchester Grange. And then I had again written an addendum to bring it current. So that's what a subordinate page will look like. And then for Granges that have halls, Winchester has their own hall, there'll be a section on that building. So this is a profile on Winchester Grange Hall, a picture of the old hall, a picture of the fire, picture rebuilding the hall, picture of the hall after it's been rebuilt, and then a picture of the inside with a history of the hall. So bios. This is what a bio will look like. This is Peter and Catherine Doffick's bio. They're from Madison Grange. They have a really, really, really interesting story of how they came to the country and joined the Grange, which was written by their daughter, who is also in her 90s.
Oh my God.
And she sent pictures of them. This was Peter as a young boy, went in from Romania, their wedding picture, just really interesting stuff. Pictures at their home. And then we put in a little notes section of some interesting tidbits about the couple, such as Peter was superintendent of concession and rentals at the Connecticut Agricultural Fair when it was held. And Catherine was fondly remembered for her roses. And then Barbara Coolish wrote a memory of Peter and Catherine Doffick, which we included here, with a great picture of Peter sleeping at the fair.
Why do we remember the time where Peter always traveled with his station wagon? He had a boat on top of the station wagon.
Okay.
I might be wrong, but I've got that in my mind about him.
I don't remember that. So this is Alta Peck's bio. This was written by her son, Doug. We have some pictures. It has the bio. It has a picture of her with Jonas Salk at the Salk Institute, which we talked about in the little blip about her. Picture of her and Don at National Grange Convention in the 1950s. Picture of her with the March of Dimes from 1964. And a poem that she wrote, which is really very fitting. It seems to me if I am pledged to serve, I ought to give myself without reserve, to do my utmost for my fellow man, to do it daily, not just now and then. It seems to me that I ought not to shrink, something which I might involve a lot of work. I quite agree I have my life to live, but life is so much better when I give. My next assignment may be pretty tough, but that's no reason why I have to bluff. I am quite sure that when I do my best, my fellow members trust me for the rest. The things we aimed at doing and have done went better when we tried to act as one. I had to put that in. That was just perfect. And then also here's a shorter bio. This is Ruth Peck, which was Don's second wife, with a picture of her, again, with the byline from their son, Doug. So that's a quick overview of what the pages are going to look like and how they're going to lay out. So let me stop sharing my screen here.
Terry,
Yeah.
on Ruth Peck,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to be sending you a picture of her receiving her 75 years certificate.
Oh, awesome.
And it's in the batch that I'm getting ready to send to you.
Oh, great.
So
That's
within
that's
the
perfect.
also, I have I believe there is a picture of her for her 100th birthday
Oh,
at
wow.
the place she was living.
That's great.
So that was something I wrote on my notes of what I have to do in that particular ranger.
Great. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
So that's what we're working with. We've found a lot of really cool information, which we'll be including. Starting soon, we will be putting in a feature every month. Instead of the window picture, we're going to switch it up and we're going to do a remember picture of some of the really neat facts and things. Todd's been writing some articles on some stuff periodically, as I'm sure you've seen in the Granger. But we're going to change that up a little bit too. And like I said, instead of the who is this picture, we're going to share some memories that we've come across of some different things. So does anybody have any questions or comments or anything along the way?
You saw the note I sent you about Diane Clark from Athabasca?
Yes, I see that. I read that here. I haven't looked at my email, but I see on the messages here that you did that. Thank you. Yeah, any information, the next Granger will have a list, basically the list we presented here will be in there. So any information on some of these people that we're still holding out would be great if we can find, because there's some of these people really should be in the book. So it would be appropriate if we could try to at least find somebody who knows them who might be willing to write something, or anything we can pull together. Because they were influential Grangers and they really should be acknowledged. So that's the biggest thing. We have 4 state masters that we're still waiting for information on. I will, in the next month or so, be contacting each of the people who will be writing those to say, hey, light a little fire under them to get that going. Because we really have to have all the state masters. It just wouldn't be right not having something on all of them. So that's pretty much where we're at. So our next social hour will be May 30th. It's going to be on home gardening. I am in the process of trying to secure a speaker for that. So hopefully, fingers crossed, that comes through. And should have more information on that in the next couple of weeks, which will be going out via email and will be in the next Granger. So that's pretty much what we have. Nancy, I do have I have a subscription to newspapers.com as well. But I can definitely, that's great that she has that, so I can send her a list of some things if she's willing. That would be great.
I'll ask her.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. How about junior Granges? How much do you need on?
Junior is the big hole. We have bits and pieces here or there for junior Granges. Which is there were a lot of junior Granges that weren't around very long, so it's hard to find stuff on them when they were only around for a year or two and then went out. So it's and unless they're old, the Hartford Courant was great, and all the newspapers in Connecticut were great at stuff around the turn of the century, from like 1900 to like 1940, of publishing everything Grange. So we have a lot of information that we've been able to find from that period. But from like the 70s on, it's catch and catch can, because as Granges were less and less in the newspaper, it's hard to find information unless people have stuff. So it's just trying to find the people who have it.
Yeah, I'll go through my archives.
Thank you.
Yes.
So that's what we got. So if anybody has any questions or comments, or can find somebody for me, or has information, please get in touch with me and let me know. I am all over the map right now. I've got a lot of health stuff going on, which has been crazy. And I moved, which is why I have a different background in back of me. I moved the first part of this month. So I'm still not all packed, so forgive the boxes over at the side that aren't unpacked yet. But we're getting there. But it's been a little crazy in my world. So I'm hanging in there, but they've got me running all over the place right now. So to try to juggle this and other Grange stuff and work and health stuff, it's been a little insane. Like this week I had 7 appointments and I still have 2 tomorrow. So it's just been, one thing after another, after another, after another, after another with doctor's appointments. So we're hanging in there.
Hang in there, lady.
Yeah,
We're
We're
all
still
pulling
kicking,
for you.
so we're good.
that's good.
But thank you all for coming, and that's all I have for this evening.
Great. Thank you, Terry,
Yeah.
for all your work.
Thank you.
We did record
Terry.
this, so it will go up on YouTube probably within a week or so.
Groovy.
Great.
Okay,
Thank you,
thanks,
Terry.
everybody.
Yeah. Take care of yourself.
Thanks, Terry.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thanks, everybody.